So some of you may have seen the title and thought to yourself, wow, this is extremely late. I've already seen like 5 or 6 top 5 best or worst videos. Well, I wanted to sneak in a few more games, and truth be told, I barely played any 2020 releases. If you know anything about my channel, I mostly play old games, and that's what I spent most of 2020 doing. So I want to prove to some of you that I'm not just a retro gamer or a hipster or a boomer, as I've been called more than a few times. So here's 5 terrible or disappointing games from 2020. Originally, these were both one video, but it was going to be extremely long, so here's just the worst for now, since that's what most of you probably want to see anyway. The 5 best will be coming out soon enough. So remember to do the things that the algorithm likes. Check out my Patreon if you want to support me. Alright, without further ado, let's get into this.
What did that witch Fulke do to you?
You cannot even begin to imagine the things I've seen. What I've learned. Born of gods is who I am. A lord of war. A Roman Mars. I know who I am. I know my destiny. And you will not hinder me!
Coming in at number 5 on the worst list is honestly a perfectly fine game. And most of the top 5 worst list is going to look like this, because to be honest, I don't really play bad games. I don't go out of my way to play bad games. So really, Valhalla just barely makes the worst list, because it just wasn't good enough to be in the top 5, or top 6 even. Being the 3rd game in the current discount Witcher 3 Assassin's Creed soft reboot, essentially. It does improve some mechanics on Odyssey, but for the most part, it's yet another giant empty open world with repetitive half-assed side quests, a story that you're not going to care about roughly 90% of, and the game itself is way too long for any person who isn't obsessed with these mediocre games to finish. I mean, the game is at minimum 60 hours long, and it's taken many of you 80 or more hours, as you've told me. And I played just 25 hours of it, and that was the most I could take. But that being said, it had decent combat. I cared about the relationship between the 2 main characters, and all in all, it's probably one of the better Ubisoft games released in the past 3 years, which is kind of sad, honestly. But still not good enough to make it onto the best list.
A lot of the stuff that you do in this game, it's stealth, man. It's a really competent stealth game. It's a really competent stealth game.
Coming in at number 4 is yet another Ubisoft game, Watch Dogs Legion. This really shouldn't come as a surprise to any of you. The most surprising thing is that I even played it at all, and it wasn't worth it in any way, because I actually purchased this thing for $60. Valhalla, all I did was subscribe to Ubisoft Plus, so that wasn't such a big blow to my bank account, but oh man, what a waste. What a complete and utter waste. The funny thing is, this game is bad for almost completely different reasons than the first 2 Watch Dogs games. Because while a lot of the core gameplay mechanics are the same, it's still the overly simplistic third-person shooting with one-button hacking mechanics. The real problem with this game is that they banked everything on the you can play as anybody system, which is very half-assed, to say the least. Because 99% of civilians on the street are worthless, and the only ones you're going to play as are the specialty characters. And even out of these specialty characters, the only careers that are useful are Hitman and Spy, and they blow the rest out of the water. Especially Spy. Spy, you could play the entire game with one Spy, even on permadeath mode, and probably beat the entire thing, as long as you don't accidentally hit an explosive. And you would think, at least knowing that their system is half-baked, that they would try to have some good story missions, maybe some good side quests. No, it's all generic crap. The only reason this isn't higher on the list is because I really had no expectations for it.
That's good, girl. That's it. Once more.
Amnesia Rebirth. Again, I didn't even have high hopes for this one, really, especially since I wasn't the biggest fan of Soma. Soma is a game liked almost entirely for its story, and not its gameplay mechanics, and I'm somewhat of a gaming purist, so I didn't really care for the game despite it having a pretty good story. Amnesia Rebirth, on the other hand, doesn't have a good anything. It's essentially a walking simulator, with very few chase sequences in between, and a few pity puzzles to make you think that this is a legitimate video game. Yeah, no, I mean, that pretty much sums up its problems. It's a walking simulator. There's barely any gameplay mechanics, barely any gameplay interaction period other than puzzles and occasionally running in a straight line, and some very rudimentary stealth mechanics. And if you don't care about the plight of a pregnant woman going to an alien realm or dimension, there's really nothing for you here. Even the slight connections to the first game are not really that interesting. So yeah, at the end of the day, it was just an okay game. At least it wasn't full price. That's the best thing I can say about it. Number 2 is a huge one, Resident Evil 3. I was legitimately excited for this, because I actually really liked the Resident Evil 2 remake, despite how different it was from the original. But Resident Evil 3 is nothing like the original, absolutely nothing like it. And it's only fitting that my review for this game was my first ever popular video. God, I almost forgot it came out this year, it feels so long ago. But it was essentially a linear action game, a 4-hour-long linear action game, for $60. And the only justification for that price is a shitty multiplayer game you're gonna play for like an hour, and then never play again. And Capcom wants to shove yet another multiplayer game into Resident Evil 8. So we'll check out how horrible that is when it releases, because I've got access to it when it comes out. Never pre-order. I do it so you don't have to. But even despite its incredible linearity and its short length, there's really nothing else redeeming about this game either, because they decided to add back the dodge mechanic, which was in the original Resident Evil 3. But this essentially is what crosses the line from survival horror to action horror. And if it was good action horror, I wouldn't complain. Even up to Resident Evil 5 standards would have been fine. But no, they still kept the shitty reverse bloom mechanic, or whatever you want to call that, where you have to aim for a second before you have an accurate shot. So not only do you have to pace your shots, but you also have to combine this with like dodging at the right timing to get bullet time. And bullet time essentially negates that bullet time thing anyway, since you're going to be in incredible close range, likely. Nemesis is an absolute joke in this game. He goes down in one grenade outside of his scripted boss fights. And every other appearance of him is scripted as well, which, admittedly, it was like that in the original game, but it didn't seem like it because of incredible smart use of said appearances. And of course, there's like no puzzles in this game. Yeah, of course they couldn't put any puzzles in a linear action game. People might actually get bored. Oh my god. People having to use their brain? Holy shit, what? And even ignoring that straight gameplay as well, Jill herself is just obnoxious in the game. And I've seen some justifications for this, that, you know, she's an asshole because most of the people she meets are a part of Umbrella. Yeah, I get that, but she's still insufferable about the way she talks. Especially her interactions with Nemesis. They're just cringy, man.
Come on, you creepy ass stalker! It's my turn, bitch! Bitch can't even swim.
Really? God, fucking, ugh. And her wielding a fucking, like, 12-foot long railgun? Excuse me? That's fucking boulder punching tier, man. It's just cringe, dude. Overpriced, nothing like the original, linear, all action, no horror. I mean, what more reason do you need to think this game sucks?
No contest.
Please stop! Please don't shoot! Joel, please get up! No! No!
And my one dishonorable mention goes to Last of Us Part 2. This would have been number 2 on this list if I had actually played it, but there was no fucking way I was ever gonna play this game. Are you fucking serious? Like, after I saw the leak, I just knew, no way. I'm not playing this. I'm not subjecting myself to that torture. So, yeah, you can think of this as an honorary number 1 or number 2 tied. It really doesn't matter. Naughty Dog's dead. I've said it already. I don't want to talk about this game ever again. It's a piece of shit. The cops spawn behind you.
World itself,
Directly behind you. Not even around the city in a video game.
They're just like terrible.
It is, but it has no depth.
I had one time.
That still shit time.
Acceleration is
And of course, the most disappointing game of the year goes to Cyberpunk 2077. Is it any surprise? No, it's incredibly obvious. There's a reason it's my most viewed video, because everyone hates this game, for good reason. For good fucking reason. It doesn't even work on console. Even if it did work on console, it's just okay. That's the worst part. It's not even the worst game on this list. It's just average. I didn't even have like a crazy amount of glitches in my experience. I just had a half-baked game with no RPG mechanics, no player choice, the most like half-assed generic side quests, which is literally the opposite of what people wanted from CD Projekt Red. The opposite of what they're known for from The Witcher 3. How did they fuck up this bad, man? What happened? What happened to the company? Yes, I agree with the fact that most of the developers who worked on Witcher 3 probably don't work for the company anymore. I think that's accurate. And as I said before, the game was only in active development for 4 years. People didn't believe me for some reason, but there's overwhelming evidence to that fact. But even then, I think they restarted development after 2 of those years. This is not what 4 years of development looks like, people. This is what a fucking rushed hack job looks like Duke Nukem Forever. I mean, that's essentially what this is. And it will never be the game people wanted it to be. That's the hardest pill to swallow. That there are people still hoping that CD Projekt Red will make it the game that everyone dreamed it would be. But no amount of patches will turn it into a completely different game. This is not going to be No Man's Sky. It would cost way too much money and they have no incentive. Because they're corporate now. They're not an indie company. They have like 1,000 people working for them. They were the most valuable company in Poland for a short while. How delusional can you be, man? It's just yet more evidence that gaming is dying, you know? I'll keep saying it over and over again. Alright, guys. There you have it. Thanks for watching. You know, subscribe if you want to see more, I guess. Thank you to all my patrons. Every little bit counts. Doesn't matter how much you donate to me. So, what were your guys' favorite games of 2020? I can't imagine it's a long list, but, you know, you probably played at least a couple good games, right? This is probably one of the worst years of gaming for me of all time. Pretty much all of the worst years, though, are in the last 5, so, you can see why, my rant videos are usually negative. Well, hopefully I'm going to be talking about some more positive games. Because I'll be talking about Resident Evil 5. I think actually I might release a surprise review of a game that I was surprised about, and you guys might be interested in hearing. That one shouldn't take too long, because I'm trying out a new shorter format. Truth be told, the reason that I made that post a week ago is because making these longer videos is kind of burning me out. So I'm going to try and find a format that's 10 to 15 minutes long. And I think that suits the wider YouTube audience more anyway. I just don't want to cut out too many details from my reviews, because even if nobody cares about what I'm talking about, I do. So I need to satisfy you guys, but also satisfy myself, if that makes sense. So, see you guys next time.